So this is what in musical theater terminology we would call an I want song. It's the song usually at the beginning of the show or the movie where the hero or the heroine sings about what they want to have happen to them. So other Disney songs that do that, like Go the Distance from Hercules, Belle's solo at the end of that opening sequence, I want adventure in the great wide somewhere. She literally sings what she wants.
Yes, that's in Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, in Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
But this one in Little Mermaid is one of the best, I think. There's also one in Little Shop of Horrors, Somewhere That's Green, which is also...
Oh, yes, that's a great song.
Welcome to the Research and Reason podcast. Join us as we discuss the latest research, news and opinion from academics in the Faculty of Arts and Education at the University of Auckland.
Kia ora koutou. Ko Julianne Evans tōku ingoa. I'm Julianne Evans, the Media Advisor for the Faculty of Arts and Education. And my guest today is Dr. Gregory Camp, a Senior Lecturer in Music in the School of Creative Arts. Gregory has a special interest in opera, musical theatre, film music, and in particular, Disney music, about which he's just written a book, Music in the Disney Parks, published by Routledge. Kia ora, Gregory. Lovely to have you here.
Kia ora.
I know you are a great fan of the Disney theme parks, of which I think there are around about 12
That's right.
in the world. And you've been to all of them, is that right?
Yes, I have.
Which is your favourite? And does Disney Tokyo, for example, have a different flavour to, say, Disney Paris?
I think my favorite would have to be Disneyland, the original in California. It's the most magical of all of them. It's not the largest, it's not the most technologically advanced in every way, but it has the most charm. It has the most interesting music in a lot of ways, the most variety, the most number of characters that you can meet, a lot of good snacks that you can eat. They really go for the whole sensory experience there, as they do in the other parks, but Disneyland is special.
Was that the first one you went to?
No, the first one I went to is Disney World in Florida. I think I was 7 or 8.
Is that where you're from?
I'm from Colorado,
Yeah.
which is actually between Florida and California. But I think because Disney World is much more of its own destination with 4 theme parks and golf courses and water parks and a lot of hotels, people tend to go there for longer vacations. Disneyland caters more to locals.
What did you notice even, when you first started going to those parks? What did you notice about the music? Because that's been your focus, hasn't it?
It has. I've always been interested in music for as long as I can remember. So I think the music in the parks is one of the things that attracted me to them, to visiting them. Even when I was pretty young, I noticed how much music there was and how much variety of music there was, and how music was being used to tell the stories the way it was in their films as well.
Did you find that the music at the park was just all about your generation, or did you feel like it worked on multiple levels for different age groups?
Well, when I was young and visiting, I was mostly attracted to the music that I knew. This is before I was a musicologist or music historian, so I wasn't really doing the historical research to find earlier music. But as I've developed my musicological skill set and my knowledge around the history of Disney music, I've seen and I've heard that they use music from the whole history of the studio in the parks, so that each generation of visitors finds something that they can latch onto musically, something that makes them feel nostalgic. Whether it's people my age who grew up with Little Mermaid and Aladdin, or the Frozen generation, or the earlier Lady and the Tramp generation, or even going back to the very beginning with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
It's clever, isn't it? Why do you think they do that? What's the strategy behind doing that at the parks?
Ultimately, they want to sell tickets. They want you to come, and they want you to come back. So by
tickets and merchandise, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So by playing into that nostalgia angle, Disney is able to cater to the tastes and expectations of a vast range of people. It's not just about kids. It's about their parents. It's about college-aged people who go to have a good time with their friends. It's about the grandparents of the kids. Everyone gets a sense of the nostalgia.
And do you feel that when you go there, I think you've said in your book, in fact, it's a main theme of your book, that it's like entering your own movie. How does that work? How does that work for you when you go there?
So that's where this whole Disney music project first came from. When I was thinking about what I could write about with Disney, it's how I noticed that when I went on a ride or saw a show at Disney World or any of the other parks, it was like being inside a film. The musical techniques are pretty much the same as you will find in a film score or a television score or a video game score. There's a lot of similarity there. But using music as a way to immerse you sonically in a visual situation. And in a theme park, that's even heightened from where it is in film because everything surrounds you in 3 dimensions.
And how does it work as you progress through the park? Because I think you said in the book that it's very clever the way the speakers are positioned. You start on one ride and then they really want you to go a certain way and spend a bit of time in that place and then move to something else. How does that work musically in those parks?
That's right. Disney's Imagineers, which is what they call the designers of the parks, use all sorts of tricks, both from theater and from film and from other forms of live entertainment, to use music to bring you through different aspects of the story, different stages. So, for example, the way they place the speakers that you mentioned, the music will be louder coming out of those speakers in the middle of an area. It might be a bit quieter as you leave it so that you get a sense of a crossfade as you go, say, from Main Street USA, which is a turn of the 20th century small town feel, into Adventureland, which is South Seas or
pirate
sort of feel.
Yeah.
So you might hear drums in the distance. As you approach Adventureland, those get louder as you get closer to them, while the Main Street background music fades out.
So that's what you would call, I guess, incidental music in a way around the parks, but there's also actual shows you can go to, aren't there, and parades and things like that. How do those work for those of us who haven't been to the parks very much?
So in the book, I've divided the types of music into 4 big categories. Area music, which is the background music that you hear when you're walking along. Show music, which is for shows, usually musicals.
Do they put on a whole show?
They do, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Each theme park has at least one. So area music, show music, parade music, which is music that goes past you along with the parade, and fireworks music is related to that, and ride music. So each of those types has its own set of conventions, its own set of topics that it uses to tell the story. So in area music, it's done through a repeating loop, a background loop that sets the mood of the place that you're in. In a show, music works very much the same way that it would in a Broadway musical. In any show, yeah. But because they're usually musicals, it's again heightened musicality in the shows. Parades are very interesting because you get an element of the repeating loop, but it does change as the different floats ride past you. So when Moana's float goes past, you hear Moana's music, all integrated into the general background loop that the score of the parade has. And in a ride, ride is the most filmic of the types, but of course the difference between a ride and a film is that in a ride you are moving through a space, whereas with a film you're watching a screen that's in front of you.
And in the ride you're kind of immersed in it from all angles, you were saying as well?
That's right.
Yeah.
There are usually speakers in the scenes of the ride, but also usually on the ride vehicle itself, all mixed together through the magic of technology and sound mixing. So there might be a background score coming from the roller coaster car and other sound effects and other musical licks coming from speakers set within the scene that might seem to come from characters or things that make sounds.
At this point, I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite ride as it connects to the music? And also, are all the parks the same in terms of the rides and the music?
They're not the same. There are quite a lot of differences that we can maybe get into later. But as far as my favorite ride musically goes, I think it has to be Soarin', which is like soaring, but without the G, because I think they think it's cute.
What's that one from?
It's one of the few that are in the parks now that isn't based on any pre-existing intellectual property, which I think is one reason why a lot of people like it. But it's a mix between a film and a ride. There's a giant screen in front of you, and you sit in rows, like theater rows, that are attached to a big mechanical lift that brings the rows up into the air so that you're all facing the screen, and the rows move back and forth a little bit and tilt forward and back so that you feel like you're flying through space.
And what are you seeing out there in the world?
In the original version of the ride, you're seeing sights of California. The ride was first built for the California Adventure Park in California at Disneyland. So it's kind of a travel montage. You go through the desert and through the mountains and over the sea, all that sort of stuff. But the music is by Jerry Goldsmith, who was a very important film composer. And this was actually one of the last gigs he had before he died. The ride opened, I think, in 2001. And Goldsmith uses film scoring techniques to take us through all of those scenes that we're seeing. And the music shifts depending on what we're looking at. So when we see the desert, we hear Western-style music. When we fly over the San Diego military bases and planes fly by, we hear big, loud airplane-type music. But all very closely thematically connected. He uses a few themes that he recasts through the course of the film, which is about 5 minutes long. Very sophisticated modulations and cadential resolutions and fancy music theory things that we could talk about another time.
It sounds very exhilarating,
it is
actually,
very exciting, yeah.
And exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's making me think I'd like to go because I must admit I've only ever been to Disneyland once, with the one in Anaheim. And my experience wasn't quite as exciting as it could have been. So yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
When we think about Disney music, just sort of generally in the parks and around and about, I think you mentioned before about one of your favourites, which is The Little Mermaid. Mm-hmm. Can you hear The Little Mermaid anywhere in one of the parks?
Yes, you can. There's a ride, Ariel's Undersea Adventure is what it's called. They have that in Disney World and in Disneyland. Maybe in Tokyo as well. I can't quite remember. But it's a dark ride. It's a ride through scenes from the movies. So you hear the songs as you ride through.
A dark ride, did you say? Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
That's an old theme park term. It means an indoor ride, usually in a little ride vehicle that takes you through a variety of scenes. It's called a dark ride because usually it's in the dark, so as to control the lighting.
And I think there's a particular song in The Little Mermaid that you feel exemplifies how Disney uses music effectively in its films. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, and maybe then just, for some of us who like to hear, sing us a couple of lines of it?
You might be able to convince me. But the song is Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid, 1989 movie. Little Mermaid is special to me because it's the first movie I remember seeing in a cinema when I was 4 or 5 years old. And so it's all tied up in nostalgia for me, but also I think it holds up very well as a good example of great songwriting, songwriting that ties into the story that's being told. And in the best musicals that Disney does, that's what sets them apart. The songs are specific to the time, the place, the character, the position in the story. They couldn't be sung by anyone else at any other time. The lyrics are very specific. The way the music is composed is very specific.
And who are the composers and who's the lyricist?
So Alan Menken is the composer and the lyricist was Howard Ashman. Great pair of artists. They got hired by Disney by Michael Eisner, who was in charge of the studio at the time, in an attempt to revive the musicality of their filmmaking. Disney made lots of musicals in the early age, like Snow White and Cinderella, all of those classics. They hadn't done a musical animated film in quite a while in 89. The studio throughout the 80s was not on its last legs, but Michael Eisner is often credited with reviving the fortunes of the studio. Literally, they made a lot of money in the 80s through expansion of theme parks as well as making more films. So anyway, Eisner hires Menken and Ashman, who had a big success off-Broadway with Little Shop of Horrors, which is still
great
put
show
on a lot. To write a score, basically a musical theater score for this animated movie, which was The Little Mermaid. They went on then to write Beauty and the Beast, and then they had got halfway through writing Aladdin when Ashman died of AIDS,
Oh.
which is really tragic.
Yeah.
But Menken is still around and works with all sorts of other lyricists, still writing great music. But those first 2.5 movies that they did together are really special in terms of the music.
Because they work so well
They work
musically,
so well,
don't they?
yeah. And Ashman
Yeah.
was a fantastic lyricist.
And the song that you particularly like, as sung by Ariel, the Little Mermaid herself, as she's kind of under the sea, hoping to perhaps go and live in the land of people. Tell us about that one again.
So this is what in musical theater terminology we would call an I want song. It's the song usually at the beginning of the show or the movie where the hero or the heroine sings about what they want to have happen to them. So other Disney songs that do that, like Go the Distance from Hercules, Belle's solo at the end of that opening sequence, I want adventure in the great wide somewhere. She literally sings what she wants.
Yes, that's in Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, in Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this one in Little Mermaid is one of the best. I think there's also one in Little Shop of Horrors, Somewhere That's Green, which is also
Oh, yes, that's a great song.
a great song.
So what makes it great?
Good rhymes, which a lot of musical theater writing today lacks. And by good rhymes, I mean rhymes that are actually rhymes. Specificity is really important. Like I said before, no other character could sing this song. It tells us things about the character that we wouldn't have if the song were to be cut. But it also works on its own as an independent song.
And people do sing it
People sing it out of context.
on its own, yeah. So how does it go?
I brought some lyrics just in case I
Just give us a few
forget.
lines.
Yeah, just a few lines. So the beginning of the song, what we call the verse, Ariel is in her grotto looking at all of the things that she has and longing for more. So she sings, "Look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm the girl who has everything? Look at this trove, treasures untold. How many wonders can one cavern hold? Looking around here you'd think, sure she's got everything. I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I've got who's-its and what's-its galore. You want thingamabobs? I've got 20. But who cares? No big deal. I want more." Then she goes into the chorus.
Oh, lovely. What a nice voice you have.
Yeah, oh, thank you. It's a bit odd to hear that sung by a baritone, I'm sure, but
Oh, no.
well.
No. And then it gets into its chorus, doesn't it, after
that's
that? Talking about the world above the sea.
yeah, and what she wants to be and
Yeah.
become.
Yeah. It's a very, very pretty melody line, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
is. It's another thing that makes it a good song is that it's singable. It has a recognizable hook, so people can recognize it and
Yeah.
sing along.
Yeah. So, in terms of the copyright issue with Disney, which we hopefully haven't breached just now, how did that affect your ability to research the book? Because I believe they're very careful about their archives.
They are very careful, and this is something that every one of us who studies Disney has to deal with somehow, because their archives are not open to researchers. It's only for in-house use, so you have to work for the Disney company to be able to use their archives. So it's not like going to the Library of Congress or a university whose job it is to let people go and look at their archives. We have to either find archives that have Disney material that are open, and there are a few, or we have to, we gather the crumbs from other things that they have published. And Disney is getting a bit better at publishing more of that stuff. It's all in-house publications, so there's always going to be a certain corporate bias to it. But there is material available that we can look at, that we can use.
And also there's just going to the parks, as you did yourself.
Yeah, so that's
isn't
the
there?
main thing that we do in this case. It's not unlike ethnographic fieldwork in some ways. It's participant observation. We go to the parks, we experience the rides and the attractions, and we think about what we're seeing and what we're hearing and how
what
it all
you're
fits
feeling.
together. Yeah, and what we're feeling.
And you've transcribed some of those compositions, haven't you, yourself, and
so another
analysed them in
way-
the book?
That's right. So another way kind of around the archives is just to do the legwork yourself by closely analyzing the text. And by text, I mean any thing that we can interpret by analyzing the text in a deep way. So we can do that by listening to things over and over again. A good thing about Disney is that the fan community is very strong. So if you go on YouTube, you can find a whole lot of ride-through videos, people who amass the background tracks that they use for the area ambience. So you don't necessarily have to go to the parks to transcribe the music, to hear it and to study it closely.
Because this is separate to the music that we all know and is written as sheet music and that you can
That's
buy,
right.
isn't it?
Yeah. You can buy this music sometimes in sheet music arrangements for a few of the songs that were written for the theme parks. And you can buy compilation albums that Disney has put together, but those are usually edited versions of the scores as opposed to what you'll hear exactly as it is on the ride. But really, there's no substitute in doing this kind of work to going to the parks because there's a haptic sense, a sense of being able to touch and smell and get
the whole
The
experience.
whole experience. Yeah.
I think you've got the perfect job, haven't you?
Yeah, it's
I mean, you think
enviable.
to yourself, now what shall I research? Oh, I know. Stuff that I really like going to do, yeah. And what about this area of scholarship? Because I think, there'd be quite a lot of people who'd be quite surprised, maybe including me, to find out that Disney is a huge area of scholarship. It has its own dedicated journal, I believe. And when you think about it, it makes sense. It's such a cultural giant, isn't it?
It is. I think especially over the last 10 years or so, there's been a huge growth in Disney studies, broadly defined, not just the music, but everything about Disney. Which doesn't mean that academics weren't looking at it before that. But when they were, like in the 80s and 90s, it was mostly very negative. It was to look at how Disney is an example of corporate capitalism run wild. And there's no denying that that's the case. But my philosophy and what most of us who look at Disney these days think is that when something is as popular as Disney is, we need to look at how it works. Not just to complain about it, not just to praise it, but to get under the skin of, in this case, the music. How is it structured? What are the tropes that it draws on to bring you in that way? How does that nostalgic structure work? What are the techniques that they use?
And they're very, very good at it.
They
aren't
are very good. Yeah.
And that brings me to the Imagineers, who are multi-person teams of people who work behind the scenes in all those parks and cruise ships. And how does that work?
So Imagineering is a division of the creative division of Disney. So it's its own entity. And they, like you said, they look after the parks, but also the cruise line and some other experiences around the company. And they're an amazingly talented group of people. They recruit from top universities and often will collaborate with universities on developing new technologies for the parks. But they have a big music team as well, whose job is to curate all of the music that's used.
Wow. So they do sort of engineering, they do art, design, music, characters, all sorts. They must be multi-talented and creative.
Yeah, everything that you see at the parks has in almost all cases been created for that park experience. They're not hiring outside firms to design things.
It's all in-house.
It's all in-house. Some of the, actually building the rides is usually outside people because Disney doesn't have all of that infrastructure, but all of the design work is done by Imagineering.
Would you like to be one of those people?
I think I probably prefer studying it from the outside than working from the inside. But if they wanted me to consult on something, I would be very eager to do that.
Which brings me right round to your book again. Let's give it another plug. Where can we buy it, and who's it for? And just give us another. So, Music in the Disney Parks, published by Routledge, out now.
It is out now.
Yeah.
It's an academic book from an academic press, which means that it's rather on the pricey side. I'm hoping that they'll release it in a paperback version, which will be less expensive. But it's published by Routledge, and their market for this kind of book is primarily university libraries and academics. But when I wrote it, I tried very hard to make it accessible so that you don't have to be a music theorist or a musicologist to read it, but anyone with an interest in Disney. There are some sections that are more theoretical, based. I've got some, harmonic analysis, things like that, but that's easily skippable for people who aren't
Who don't know all those
who aren't
musical
too keen
terms.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So where can people find this book?
They can find it at any of the online bookstores if they really want to buy it. My suggestion is that if you want to read it, ask your local library to get a copy, because then not only can you get it and not have to pay for it, but other people can read it as well. If you're attached to the University of Auckland Library, we do have an ebook version, so just go into the catalogue and it will be there.
And are you going to use it on your courses for your students? Because what do you teach at the university relating to Disney?
Well, I'm always feel a bit funny about assigning my own work for courses, but I might slip it in as a suggestion. I teach a whole lot of courses on music history, musicology, and music theory. My students will know that Disney music often gets incorporated in some way.
It must be very popular, is it?
It is, yeah. The Disney lecture is always a popular one, I think. I teach a course called Music on Stage and Screen that obviously has more room for Disney, and I'll usually do at least one lecture on Disney music. If not theme park music, then at least their musicals and their film music.
Great. Well, that seems like a good place to finish. Thank you very much, Gregory. It's been lovely talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the Research and Reason podcast. Stay up to date with the Faculty of Arts and Education by following us on social media.